This video is sponsored by Brevo. Hey guys, Jay here, welcome to Models Memories Weekly, episode 275. Models and Memories is a show about nothing and is filmed in front of a live studio audience. This is a show where I talk about painting, modeling, and wargaming experiences from the week. Now you might be thinking to yourself, Jay, you put out 3 videos a week. Could I possibly have more to say? Well, I do, and here goes. This week, Games Workshop released 11th edition, and it released all of the information that we need to get playing, and there are some fairly big changes. This is very exciting, almost as exciting as today's sponsor. Have you ever wanted to start your own small business, but you struggle thinking about how you're gonna manage everything yourself? I've been there, and it's definitely a struggle thinking about how to do every little thing manually. Writing, sending, and replying to everything yourself is no way to go about it, and luckily Brevo offers everything you need to automate this process and make sure you're connected to everyone you need to succeed. It all lives right here on the dashboard. All your conversations, contacts, and business tools are available here. Automation, email creation, contact management, and more are all just a click away. And everything is so easy to set up without any coding knowledge needed. I can go into my campaigns tab here, and within moments be creating a seamless new email campaign using one of the many awesome templates available within moments. If I need to set up forums or other pages, there are tools available right here to send to contacts. Contacts are easily segmented and sorted through other tabs here. Do I need to set up an automatic campaign to remind someone of a new video coming up? Then I can go to this tab here, select a feature, and in moments create an automated send out reminder. Everything you need to market your business is available here in an easy and quick to understand way. If you're ready to start saving time and energy on your business, then give Brevo a try. Go to Brevo and sign up with my code EonsBattle50 to get 50% off for the first 3 months of a starter or business plan. Follow the link in the description to learn more. One thing that us Warhammer 40,000 players have been waiting on is the Miniature Field Manual for 11th edition. The Miniature Field Manual is usually the most important thing for games of 10th edition, and it's been really fun having them updated like quarterly, vaguely quarterly. The points would change and armies would change in like what you're able to bring, how many points things are, what's good, what's bad. It's been really fun to see Games Workshop try to balance 10th edition, and they've done a pretty darn good job of keeping everything running smoothly. Hilariously, a lot of things came out at a certain point, and then Games Workshop buffed them, and then nerfed them, and then kind of brought them back to even. I feel like most things really haven't changed all that much if you look at the beginning and the end of 10th edition. As a Black Templar player, I've seen my army shoot way high up where everything was super overcosted and then dip down to undercosted, and now everything feels fine. But I was really interested to see what 11th edition was going to bring, and Games Workshop made some big promises. One of those was variable points cost coming back to the game. This is something that we saw in previous editions of 40k, where it used to be you bought yourself a body and then you had to buy the war gear separately. Typically, this was done more for like lore reasons than game reasons. Like a plasma pistol would be 10 points, but it'd be 10 points if it's a guardsman or a sister of battle or a space marine. But arguably, it's barely even worth the 10 points on a space marine. In like 7th, 8th edition, like things got a little bit better where points costs were a little bit more granular and things were relatively balanced. And in 10th edition, I feel like Games Workshop made the smart decision of just getting rid of variable points cost. The way that they handled it on certain units is they would split data sheets. Like Tau Crisis battle suits, there was one data sheet for the Flamer Pulse Carbine, one data sheet for the Plasma and Missile Launcher, and then one data sheet for the Melta. And that way all 3 of these could have different points cost depending on the damage output of their respective weapon, and they could have unique rules specifically targeting their unique war gear. I feel like that was a pretty darn good way of handling points, but I think when a lot of people heard that variable points costs were coming back in the game, they got very excited because they were getting that granularity back. My experience with the granularity, I mean, I started in 6th edition 40k and then played all of the editions except 9th. I never found that the granularity helped much. It almost always was better to not go in for the war gear and just spend those points on more bodies. And so it ended up having my army missing out on a lot of unique war gear, where I felt like in 10th edition, I was paying for the war gear, so I should take it, and it made a lot of my units quite a bit better. Now in 11th edition, supposedly we have variable point war gear costs back, but looking over all of the Miniature Field manuals, they're exceedingly rare, like shockingly rare. Another interesting thing is the previous Minotaur Field Manual was just a 10-page document of points lists. Now they're specifically broken down faction by faction, so you can click on your faction and then see your specific data sheets and your specific points. And I looked through all of the armies I play and all the armies Sean plays and Nick plays, and it doesn't, there's barely any variable points cost. Almost everything just has its normal, regular 10th edition price, and then a couple of things have a little bit of war gear option. Like Drukhari Scourges cost 110 points for the squad, and then every Dark Lance or Haywire Blaster costs an extra 10 points, which if you bought them all, it would bring them back up to the normal price. Sure, that's fine. I guess the Flamethrower squad is a fair bit cheaper than if you're taking the thing that you're taking, which is the Dark Lance or the Haywire Blaster. There's some weird weapon options, like a Cadian heavy weapon team costs 65 points, so 3 las cannons cost 65 points, or 3 heavy bolters cost 65 points. Those two different weapon options are not equal, but I guess they are in terms of the points that Games Workshop thought they should be. But then if you hop on over to the Krieg heavy weapon squad, 3 las cannon Kriegers cost all 60 points, so they're 5 points cheaper than the Cadians, but they pay an extra 5 points for every one of their Krieg heavy flamers. Sure, I guess that makes sense. They are different units with different abilities, so whatever, it's fine. For Tau, the Crisis battle suits are still broken down by their 3 respective squads, but if you're taking the plasma gun guys, if you're taking the burst cannon flamethrower guys, it costs you an extra 5 points for each flamethrower you take, which actually kind of adds up because each suit can take 2. And also it's the flamethrower. Am I missing something? Tau flamethrowers, it's just the normal 40k flamethrower. It's like D6 shots of strength 4, AP zip, damage 1. Why is it even have a points cost? I've never heard of anyone ever taking it. So why is it specifically called out as a piece of war gear that is so exceptional it needs to raise the overall cost of the squad? I don't know. It seems really, really bizarre. Everything is it's very, very rare for things to have variable points cost. A lot of things that I thought would get it don't have it. And then a bunch of random things like the Krieg heavy weapon squad or Tau crisis suits, specifically with the flamethrowers, do have a variable points cost. I thought Black Templar might get that because we have our Crusader squads, and the Crusader squad box actually comes with chainswords for everybody or bolters for everybody. And no one has ever glued on a bolter because they're meant to be the chainsword guys. Their rules and everything about them benefits the chainsword. So there's just no point to the bolters. But I thought, well, maybe they could be super cheap if you take them with the bolters. That could be something. They're in the box. Why not make them a thing? But I guess maybe down the road, Games Workshop will utilize this lever to pull where they can change the points cost of things. Speaking of points cost, pretty much everything across the board is exactly the same as it was in 10th edition. Some things like the Orc Stampa has gone down by 200 points. And I believe the Gargantuan Squiggoth has gone, it went down, but it didn't go down nearly as much as the Stampa. What did happen though, and this is pretty universal, way more universal than the variable weapon points loadouts, is anything that's even relatively good now has a caveat that your third costs an extra 10 points. I don't know why it costs an extra 10 points. It just seems like a placeholder for the third take of something costs extra points. And then Games Workshop's gonna let the game run its course. And if need be, this is a lever that they're gonna pull on to buff or nerf certain things, because a lot of stuff doesn't need that at all. As a Black Templar player, my third squad of Sword Brethren is now 15 points more expensive. Why? It's the thing. It's the thing of my army. Almost none of my characters can attach to anything other than Sword Brethren. Why am I punished for taking a third squad of Sword Brethren? It feels mean. There's also weird stuff like Krutok's Rampagers. The third squad costs an extra 10 points, but Krutok's Riders third squad doesn't cost an extra 10 points. And I would say the Riders are better than the Rampagers. So it feels very weird what units got hit with the 10 points and which units didn't. It seems like some of the units that Games Workshop made this change in mind with is like the Chaos Defiler. where your second defiler costs an extra 30 points, and so does the third one. Like, that feels like what this rule was meant for, and Games Workshop is just dipping their toe into the water by giving it to 75% of the units in the game. Also, Black Templar Marshal also is 80 points, but your third one is 90 points. It doesn't feel like it needs to be that way, but it just seems like that's how Games Workshop is tentatively moving forward with 11th edition to balance the game, and it's fine. It's just a little weird that like they put together the Minotaur Field Manual, and then they looked for names that they recognize because those are the things that people are actually taking in their armies. And then they said, yep, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point, 10 point on all of those things. And chances are you won't hit that as often as you might think. Like, even looking at the armies that I've played with in 10th edition, it's actually pretty rare for me to take more than 2 of something. Even in a lot of my Black Templar games, I don't always bring the third squad of Sword Brethren, so it seems it's just something. It's just something that exists and is a little bit different now, but I do think it's a good idea, and it's like definitely necessary on things like the Defiler, and like Rogaldorn battle tanks. Those things should be more expensive if they're spammed. But I think most everything in the game is probably fine. Like, does the third squad of Dark Eldar Reaver jet bikes need to be a little bit extra expensive to stop people from doing that? I feel like it'd be perfectly fine to not do that. And also, it'll be interesting. I haven't double checked this, but some detachments allow you give battle line to certain units. And so will me being able to take an extra 3 squads of something run into this problem of the third, fourth, or the fourth, fifth, and sixth take of this unit, like Space Marine Outriders or Orc Grots, Gretchen, will they cost an extra 10 points each to spam them? Because it's kind of the thing of my detachment is I'm very narrowly focused into something very specific. I don't want to get hit with extra points because I'm doing that. I feel like because the detachment is written, it's already assumed that this is a fine thing to do. It feels weird to get punished for that. But overall, it seems like a necessary change that was maybe just done a little bit too broadly. A lot of people are going to be paying an extra 10 points here or there all over the place for seemingly no reason, no balance reason. But speaking of reasons, if you need some new miniatures or some gently used miniatures, then that's perfect because this weekend, June 28th, is the Midwest Mini Swap. My man Tim is hosting. It's essentially a Warhammer garage sale, and it's happening at the VFW Center in New Berlin, Wisconsin this Sunday. I'm super excited. It's always a ton of fun. Tim is going to be bringing probably a frightening amount of Warhammer as usual, and I'm going to be there with a ton of stuff to sell as well. And it's got to move. The prices are going to be pretty darn good. It's a really, really fun time, and if you see the giant tank out front, you'll know you're in the right place. Also, speaking of changes that I see in 11th edition that are just kind of funny, I was reading the new Tau detachments, the new 1-point detachments, and the one that caught my eye that is incredible is the experimental prototype cadre. This one is built around buffing just your crisis suits, and I take a squad of Sunforged crisis suits, the Meltagun guys, with a Cold Star Commander with 4 more Meltaguns. And this just seems super solid. Friendly battlesuit character units, range attacks have plus 6-inch range. That is shockingly good. Like, Games Workshop might have forgot that they have Melta-suit crisis suits, because Melta range is measured at half the range of my guns, and my gun's range is 12 inches. So I gotta get within 6 inches to be getting my plus 2 Melta damage. But if I have 18 inches, that's all of a sudden a 9-inch Melta range. Like, that seems really generous for a 1 detachment point ability. Then it gets a little bit silly with the enhancements, where your one particular gun on each battle suit can be quite a bit better, but it's just one of the guns. When I first read this, I thought it was for all 4 of the weapon hardpoints on the Cold Star Commander, and that would probably get a little nuts. But with just one, I feel like I don't really care enough to even spend the points on it. Like, I can have a Tau Flamer weapon with plus 2 strength, plus 1 AP, and damage. Like, that's not nothing. That does make one of my flamethrowers quite a bit better. But I don't know, I have 4 bolted to the hull, so do I really care to spend the points to make me roll one of those separately, and then it has a slight percentage chance better at killing Space Marines than normal? I don't know. Those seem fine. There's one for the plasma gun, and then there's one for the supernova launcher, or it's the fragmentation projector, which the fragmentation projector is +3 strength, +1 AP, and damage. But I feel like, is that fine? 5, 6, 7. It goes from 3 to 6. Strength 6, AP 1, damage 2. Yeah, that's probably fine. Those will have to be very, very cheap. But the thing that made me chuckle about this detachment is the stratagem, experimental ammunition. In your shooting phase, when a friendly battlesuit character unit is selected to shoot, and I have one in my army, so I would get to do this, I can have +1 strength, which is, again, very generous on meltaguns that are strength 9. Jumping from 9 to 10, and all of a sudden I'm wounding like rhinos on 3s, and I'm wounding most vehicles on 4s or 5s, or on 4s. That seems really, really good for 1 command point. Then there is another bullet point, or I can have +1 strength and +1 AP and hazardous. I think that Games Workshop didn't reread how crisis suits are, because you cannot have hazardous on your shooting weapons. Like, that is unacceptable. Hazardous actually works a little bit differently in 11th edition. It's much more consistent, but it does less damage. If you're a normal guy, you will take 1 mortal wound on a hazardous check roll of a 1 or a 2. So it doesn't hurt you as bad, but it's much more likely to happen. It's more consistent. Vehicles take 3 mortal wounds on a roll of a 1 or a 2. And crisis suits are vehicles, and we have a boatload of guns. My Sunforge Battlesuit squad with the attached Cold Star Commander is 10 ranged guns. That would be 10 hazardous checks with a 1 and a 3 causing 3 mortal wounds. That is an almost guaranteed 9 mortal wounds to my own squad to use this ability. That's 2 guaranteed suit deaths. Like, why would I ever do that? I guess I could get to choose in your shooting phase. When a friendly battlesuit character is selected to shoot, your unit's ranged attacks have. I guess I don't really get to choose. I guess I could just choose to not shoot guns. So if I really, really want to, I could maybe, instead of shooting with all 10 guns, I could shoot with 3 of them in the hopes that I only roll 1 hazardous fail, and then I take 3 mortal wounds, and then one of my suits is alive on 1 wound remaining. It feels like Games Workshop thought that battlesuits were infantry, in which case you would average 3 mortal wounds, which feels fair enough. 1 guy would be alive on 1, but my shots were so good that I'm betting I've taken out the threat, and so that 1 guy who's still limping along is gonna be safe. But just automatic nuke half the squad. I'm not gonna do that. That just seems hilariously badly written. Like, you would just not do that. It does seem really, really silly. And there's a couple of little things like that spread across all of the new rules for 11th edition. I'm assuming some of this stuff will get changed. +1 strength is already a plenty good enough benefit for 1 command point, but +1 AP would be really fun on some of the worst guns for crisis suits. Like, if I could have +1 AP on the flamethrowers, that would be really cute and fun and interesting, and I might buy a couple more boxes of suits to put that together, because all of a sudden, a bunch of piddly flamethrowers with AP2, that becomes a little something. But, meltaguns or plasma guns with AP4 or AP5, that gets a little nuts. I do wish that Games Workshop could somehow figure out how to have things that bring up the bad performers, as opposed to just having generic benefits that buff everything. But it does just enough for the bad stuff, but it makes the good stuff way too good. I do wish that they sometimes put a little bit more effort into, like, the things that are good are already good. Let's help out the things that aren't as good. 11th edition is looking like it's going to be really, really fun, really spicy. And with the new Minotaur Field manuals, we actually got to see the points cost of the new Armageddon units, the Space Marines, the new Eradicator Squad with the heavy bolters, 3 of those Stalkers, 70 points. I feel like that's really good. I feel like that's an absolute steal. I think these guys are going to be wonderful at holding down the fort. You stick these guys on your home field objective. If anything comes near, you get 3 shots blast with their heavy bolters. I think they have sustained hits 1. Like, they do seem really, really good at 70 points. The Landspeeder, the new Landspeeder, 95. Sure, that doesn't light a fire under me, but it's not bad. I would probably take it at 95 points. It does have Shoot and Scoop, which is a pretty darn good ability. The Vanguard Veteran Squad, 100 points, cheap and cheerful with their 5/2/2 power sword swings. That seems very, very good. And the Ancient is 40 points. If they made it 20 points, people still wouldn't take it. The Ancient does nothing. There's, I guess, +1 to your unit's control score is fine. You just wouldn't do it. I guess at 20 points you would take it by itself just because it's a body somewhere on the board. But they need to do something to help out Ancients. Just give them a little bit of a combat benefit. Like the Ancient and Terminator armor is really good. It gives you, I think, reroll 1s to hit if the attacking unit is below starting strength, and then reroll wounds of 1 if it's below half strength. That's a really good benefit. And it's kind of fussy and it's a little bit interesting, but he's cheap. Like, I feel like that's really, really solid, in addition to providing the benefits to your objective control. So I think the Ancients just need a little something. Another thing that seems a little interesting moving into 11th edition is the new way that cover works, where it's essentially, if you have the benefit of cover, you have the old benefit of stealth. Now, this is something that interacts with a lot of different data sheets, like the Venom Thropes give you cover and stealth for Tyranid infantry units. And so are we gonna see, well, we have seen that the Venom Thrope points cost has not gone down, even though it used to give 2 benefits and now it only gives 1 benefit. And most flamethrowers in the game, except for Drukhari for some reason, have torrent weapons always have ignores cover because you're shooting acid or lava or fire or swarms of bees. You're shooting something that can get over a wall, and so you ignore cover. But now you just don't do the roll where you would see the benefit of cover, so you essentially don't need those keywords anymore, and they don't do as much as they did. So are we gonna see points decrease, or are we gonna see something change? I feel like new players coming in are gonna be like, oh, what does Torrent do? It ignores the hit roll, and it ignores cover. Well, of course it ignores cover because it's ignoring the hit roll, and cover is modified in the hit roll. So it just seems weird that that exists, and right now it's a little bit of a band-aid fix, but I'm interested to see how Games Workshop creates the real fix of how is that gonna work, and why do we have so many data sheets that are invalidated now and keywords that don't actually do much of anything? I don't know. 11th edition is a really interesting change because a lot changed, but everything sort of stayed the same. And so I'm really interested to get some games in to see how it plays, to see how things are going to shake out, because I feel like 10th edition is pretty darn solid. I really like it. 40K actually feels like a game. And 11th edition is hopefully just going to spruce everything up and make things a little bit cleaner and a little bit better. They could make the rules a little bit cleaner and a little bit better, but I don't know if Games Workshop will ever do that. Actually, in the new Minotaur and Field manuals, you can select based specifically on your faction, but it still gives all of the information that you don't need, which I suppose is fine. Like if you click on Black Templar and then look at the Ancient and Terminator armor, it'll list everything he can attach to, including things that I can take, like what are the name of the Dark Angels term? Deathwing Terminators. In the Black Templar Minotaur and Field manual, it says that they can attach to those guys, but obviously they can't if I'm playing Black Templar because I can't take those units. I guess this redundant information is fine. It introduces you to more of a wider range of information about 40K. Like I just know that my Dark Angels opponents do have access to the same thing that I have access to, so it's fine. It's just a little bit redundant. It's a little bit like the copy pasting of just 10 points for every unit that we think is slightly good. It's just like, why not? If we're really dipping our toes in, why not make it 1 point? And then we'll go from there. Because I feel like 10 points is real points. Sometimes when you're writing an army list, 10 points can mean I do or don't get to take the scout squad. So I feel like 10 points is a little steep for just trying this thing out, but I don't know. We'll just have to see what happens. And you know what else we'll have to see? All of the amazing hobby products available from EonsBattle.com. Over there, we're all restocking our excellent hobby goodies: Gamer Grass Tufts, Great Head Studio Bits for your Space Marines, Army Painter paints, brushes, basing cork, ultra thin and ultra thick super glue, and we've got terrain. It's the best way to support us doing what we do by getting a membership. Each month, members get a credit good for any one terrain pack I've ever made or the brand new one. This June, we have created the Ramshackle Bits pack. This set is full of improvised armor to enhance your vehicles, with massive treads, extra armor, rotating cannons, machine gun turrets, and little goblin gunners, including a bunch of little goblins to help keep all of this upgraded equipment running smoothly. Don't let the shoddy construction fool you, these bits are still plenty lethal, able to sling lead and crush foes under tread. This set also comes with a series of basing bits to litter the wasteland of your battlefield, and was designed by us and is available from EonsBattle.com. All in all, the Minotaur Field Manual was a bigger looking change than it ended up actually being. All of the points costs are basically still the same across the board, even with some very limited weapon variability in points cost. Nothing stuck out to me as super interesting. I'm probably not going to take Scourges with the flamethrowers for 110 points instead of just paying for the Shard Carbine or the Dark Lance that I was already going to do. I don't think there was any other real interesting points cost changes. Everything stayed a little bit the same. The only thing that is interesting is attached units are now specified in the Minotaur Field Manual, which makes me think that that is a lever that Games Workshop can pull on for balance reasons, which makes me think that maybe they will change up what things are allowed attached to what things. As a Black Templar player, my Castellan Marshal can only attach to Crusade Squad and Sword Brother. Actually, they have a little bit more variety, but a lot of my Black Templar characters can only attach to my 2 Black Templar units. Open that up a little bit to other Space Marines, why not? If it's just a bullet point that you can change on this document that is meant to receive changes, I feel like that's in a much better spot to be able to play around and stuff like that than something actually printed in my codex, printed in a book. I feel like that's a little bit more set in stone than having something in the Minotaur Field Manual, where it's just a little edit away from seeing something change. Basically what I'm trying to say is please let High Marshal Helbrecht attach to Blade Guard veterans. Please, I want the 4-up invuln in the squad. It's just make it this just little change. I'll change it. I'll make the change. Just give me permissions on the document and I'll do what needs to be done. Thanks for watching.